Hi everybody, thanks for pressing play on the video today. It's Caroline here from craftycarolinecreates.blogspot.co.uk. Today I have for you a project which is a lovely gift box that houses some homemade cards. Uses a stamp set that you might not recognise, you might have overlooked in the brochure. So let me give you a minute to think about which stamp set this might be while I open the box. So it opens by unwinding the baker's twine. And inside it houses 4 handmade cards and their matching envelopes. You maybe can tell which set set we're using now. You can see the sentiments a little bit more. Some really modern, bright cards, and they're all made using the fabulous Pretty Thankful, which is a really great value photopolymer set that I think a lot of people will have overlooked in the catalogue. But hopefully this video will show you some different looks that you can get from it, and it's a really versatile, good value set. I mean, look at those little balloons, how cute are they? Gorgeous. Okay, so let's pop the cards back in the box along with their envelopes, and let's get on with showing you how it's made. Okay, so we're going to start with 2 scraps of cardstock, one in Pacific Point and then this is Cucumber Crush. We're going to start by punching out 2 circles of Cucumber Crush with the this is the 1/2 inch circle punch. We're going to do this first because we have to use Tombow, because I somehow failed to order any snail, so I'm out of snail, so I'd recommend doing this with snail. We're using Tombow for the reasons I've just explained, and we need a minute for the glue to dry before we do anything else. So all I've done is put a bit of Tombow on the back of each of those circles, and I've just then stuck them down onto the Pacific Point cardstock. Okay, we'll put that to one side, we will need that in a moment. Now I'm going to bring in my scoreboard and some Melon Mambo cardstock, and we are going to score this at 3/4 of an inch, at 5 3/8 of an inch, 6 1/8 of an inch, and at 10 3/4 of an inch. The cardstock itself measures 11 1/4 by 8 1/4. I will put all the dimensions over on my blog. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees. We've got the short end at the top, and we're going to score this now at 1/2 inch, at 7 inches, and at 7 3/4 of an inch. It's just there. Okay, put the scoreboard to one side, and we're just going to fold and burnish all of those score lines that we have just made. Just give me a second to do that. There are quite a few of them actually. And the last one there. Okay, as you can see, using my bone folder, really pleased with that purchase. If you watch my videos for a while, you'll know I have survived without this for a little while. First thing we are going to do is build up our box. So we are going to, along the bottom here, just cut up all those little score lines to that score line that goes in the opposite direction. Then when we get to the very end, we are just going to cut that off, that square off completely. Okay, now this section is going to fold over to be our top and our flap. So it's going to fold up like this. So seam is going to go here. So this is going to be our back. So this is the flap that is going to go forward. So what we want to do is cut down that score line there. Can you see that one? Then we're just going to cut off all of this section here. Just cut straight along there. Take that off completely. Okay. We're going to do the same with these 2 little squares at this end. Rectangles they are, not squares. Okay. So we're left with our cardstock looking like that. Okay. Now we're going to build up our box, and just going to notch out slightly actually these two little flaps here. Just makes it that tiny little bit easier to fold it up and will give you a slightly neater finish. You know, you don't have to do this. If you press for time, you could always leave that unnotched. Okay, what we then need to do is put some adhesive along this side of the box here, and then just fold, you'll have seen me do this many times before, just fold that flap over like that, and that will, because our box is symmetrical, give us a nice clean fold up. Then for the bottom we are going to fold in the two side flaps first. The back piece goes forward and then the front piece finally comes together. Now there's not a lot of overlap here. That is purposely so that we can get the box out of one piece of cardstock. So we just want to I'm going to put a little bit of Tombow on each of those little flaps there, and then just a very thin layer along the edge of this. Now it is only going to hold cards, it doesn't need to hold too much weight, so we don't need to worry too much about the strength of the box base. It does make a really cute little box. I'm just going to squeeze that together and just hold that in place for a second, just to give that Tombow a minute to dry. Okay, I'm going to flip it upside down and I'm just going to push my bone folder right to the bottom into those corners, which will help make sure that is all stuck down nicely. Okay, so that is our box pretty much made up and ready to go. You can see how you could close it like that if you wanted to, but what we are going to do is do that really nice little twirly pattern. Before we do that, I'm still waiting for these little to dry a little bit more, so we will decorate the middle of the box. So like the cards, we are going to use the Pretty Thankful set, which I honestly would recommend you take another look at. This is such good value and it seems to be really, really versatile. So we're going to layer it up with some mats. So I have 3 pieces of cardstock here. A piece of Whisper White, which is the smallest, that measures 4 5/8 of an inch by 2.5 inches. Then I have a Pacific Point mat and a Cucumber Crush mat, which measure, they all measure 4 5/8, but these measure, so it's 2.5, 3 and 3.5 inches. They are half an inch wider each time. So first thing we will do is mat up our Cucumber Crush on top of the Pacific Point. Okay, goes on there like that. Okay, and then we're going to do some stamping on this. I have already started that. What I've used is the square frame here to create this quite modern sort of look on top of here. So we'll just finish that off. So I have some Cucumber Crush ink, and my stamp set is already mounted here. So I'll just move that into shot for you. So we're just going to ink this up, and all we are doing is very randomly going to stamp some squares on like that. So that is a Cucumber Crush square. Just clean off my stamp. I've got my Stampin' Scrub just off to the side here. Let's bring in a little bit of Melon Mambo. Oops, try not to drop your stamp. Mine seems to be possessed a little bit. We'll do one there. And I think we will finish off with a little bit of Pacific Point. I'll move these two out of the way so I don't stamp the wrong colour. I've been known to do that, I'm afraid. And then Pacific Point, something like that. Okay, so you can see how we've made a really sort of modern pattern using the square frame from the Pretty Thankful set. Okay, so we are ready then just to mat that up like that. Okay, so just a wee bit of Tombow again. Okay, and then that we can just stick onto a box, but I'm going to leave that for a second while we make our closure. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my smallest handheld punch and I'm going to punch a hole into the middle of my box. I'm just doing that by eye. Now it is only a small flap, so you do need to do it quite near the top, okay? And we also then need to put a hole a little bit further down where the other side is. Now I'm just going to line that up again by eye. I'm going to push my punch in as far as it will go and just stamp through there. Perfect. Not quite as aligned as I'd like them to be. So next thing to do is take in our little scraps, and we are here going to punch through the centre of our green circle. That centre looks pretty central to me. Oh, not at all. There we go. So we've punched 2 holes there. Then I'm going to come back in with the 3/4 of an inch circle punch and punch out that whole thing there. 1 and 2. Okay. I've then got some brad bases, and I'm going to use the brad base to attach these to top and bottom of my box. Just push that through and then spread it out. Okay, that's 1 in place, and then this is going to be our second. Just going to go into the lower hole, right way round. Okay, fingers in there and fold that down as well. Okay, so those are 2 brad bases. I'm going to just pop a candy dot in the centre of each of those. These brad bases are perfectly sized and designed to hold one of our brand candy dots. So these are the brights. So we've got 2 in Melon Mambo, 1 for the bottom. Oh, if it goes in. Oh, come on. There we go, 1 there, and then 1 for our top one. Okay. So these are adhesive, so they should stick nicely to the back there. There we go. Okay. So we can, now we've got those in position, it's then easy to pop on our decorative mask. So we'll just move those brads out of the way as well. So a bit of glue on the back of that mat, and I would like this to go somewhere like that, I think. So just straighten that up. There we go. Okay, now what we have to do is bring in our cards that I showed you earlier. We'll pop those inside there like that. Okay, and then final thing is to get a little bit of Whisper White Baker's twine. I will just snip off a length of that. Okay, and we'll start at the bottom. And what you just need to do is feed this underneath that circle there. Okay, wrap one end round a few times so that that is stuck nicely. Okay, close the lid, and then just from the other angle, you just want to then take your baker's twine and wrap it around those 2 circles in a figure of 8 configuration. So you've done it a few times, then you can just snip off your excess